Welcome to competition, folks. It looks like we've got our first AEW to WWE defection, and this one's a big one, a major star and an EVP. Cody Rhodes has departed officially AEW Wrestling, and word is he's on his way back to WWE along with his wife, Brandy. All signs are indicating. Welcome to the inaugural edition of News Nuggets, my little news segment that I wanted to create in case I needed to come up here quickly and do a quick video about any sort of bombshell wrestling news being dropped. Like today, like last night, we got two big ones to talk about. Stone Cold Steve Austin possibly and likely getting back in the ring at WrestleMania, and Cody Rhodes jumping ship from AEW to WWE. So much to wrap your head around here. I don't even know where to start. Luckily, I've done my best to try to organize some notes, some thoughts. We're going to go through Cody's statement, AEW's statement, Brandy's statement, some of the circumstances leading up to his contract negotiations, what the word on the street was this past week on Dynamite when he and Brandy were not there, and how most people thought this was just a negotiating tactic or maybe even a work has now, been revealed to be totally legit, totally real, and Cody Rhodes is gone. So we're going to do a lot of talking here, probably going to interact a lot with the chat to try to get feedback from you guys. I'm sure you're going to have questions and speculation, and we can kind of talk all about that. And we'll try to dissect as best we can the Cody Rhodes situation, and we also have to get into Stone Cold Steve Austin as well, because that was quite the bombshell that was dropped last night during Raw, when so many of the the wrestling journalists like Sean Ross Sapp and Alvarez and Wrestle Votes and a couple of other people were tweeting extremely cryptic shit regarding WWE, and then it was reported about an hour after that WWE has officially made overtures towards Stone Cold Steve Austin to get him in the ring at WrestleMania, and I think it's pretty obvious who his opponent is going to be, the dude who shit on Texas last night and uses the stunner as a finisher. I think it's going to be Kevin Owens. So when you think about that, I'm like, if you're Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and they offer you WrestleMania matches versus Johnny Knoxville and Stone Cold Steve Austin, yeah, I might re-sign too. So can kind of understand that. So lots to discuss. A lot of this stuff still at this point is speculation, but we'll talk about the facts that we know for sure and what possibly might happen down the road. And we'll get feedback from all of you guys in the chat. Thank you for being here on a random Tuesday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon for me. Looks like 5 p.m. on the East Coast. And hopefully you guys are having a great one. Let me just cruise over here, make sure I can be heard. We're looking good there. You guys can see me. You guys can hear me. I want to say hi to people in the chat, and then we'll start getting down to business here. Jolly Man Big Boy, that was a very scary first comment you gave me based on how the video looks to you guys on YouTube. That was kind of scary. Zane G, good to see you. Chaz Jimmy, King MKS, good to see you. Ram is in the house. Roderick, Sam Emilios, Deshaun, right on, man. Glad you're here. Regina, Jay Lambo, Victor and Zane, David. We've got lots of monkey wrenches. Hook, Monique, Ahmed, Nikita, Jet, Crash, Al, Justin, right on. Sonny, Vash, Cerebrus, Beetle, Action, Jackson, Jimmy Anderson, Shanus, right on. Good to see all y'all in here. And yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Lot to talk about and lot to think about. I'm going to read some of your comments here real quick just to see where all y'all's head is at in terms of this. Yeah, Cody went to AEW, or Cody's jumping to WWE because what else is there left for him to do in AEW? He ended racism, so go to AEW, I guess. We've had our opinions about Cody on this, on this podcast in terms of what he does in AEW and the segments and his promos and and maybe what has been driving a lot of his motivation. I argue that Cody's probably never been hotter than he is right now in terms of the buzz he's been having in the last few weeks and months. Number one, working without a contract, and the little cup of coffee he had with that TNT title again before coughing it up to Sammy in that just bonkers, phenomenal ladder match. And when you think about the matches he's had just in the last few months, that one with Andrade where he burned his back to shit in the Sammy match, Cody is, he's on fire right now. So if he wasn't getting what he wanted out of AEW, he thought maybe he could go back to WWE, who I'm sure would love to have him and that Rhodes name back, and potentially get a better deal. And I've always been a firm believer in life that I believe you should choose opportunities over your dreams. And I think Cody feels the same way. Sure, it was great to start AEW, start this revolution, but life changes, circumstances change. I don't even think AEW thought that 2 years after them starting, they would have Danielson and CM Punk under contract. That's crazy, among others. Moxley's there and so many others that have been jumping, and the roster has been growing. And Cody Rhodes at one time was one of the leaders of the pack, along with the rest of the Elite and the Bucks and Kenny, and maybe Moxley and Jericho. But once the talent roster started growing, and a lot of their, homegrown or younger talent have been making huge names for themselves. MJF and Darby. Darby's already had a stint with Gold. MJF will have one. When you combine all of that, it was almost, maybe Cody felt that he could go somewhere else, and he's probably going to get a great deal from WWE. If it's enough for him to leave AEW, a place that he helped found and build, to go back to WWE, a place where he had so many creative problems with, and he really wasn't happy there, and they kind of treated Cody like shit for a while in terms of, what they were allowing him to do on TV, and he thought he was way better than what they had planned for him, so he left, and he went out and tried to make a name on his own, try to show WWE that he can succeed and exist without them, and he did a pretty good job. He was one of those first guys to kind of leave, go to do the Japan stuff. He was doing that shit before Jericho, I think, wasn't he? So, for Cody to bounce around and, Drew McIntyre did that. A lot of guys have done that, leave the company, build up their name, build up their, reputation, and then can come back for a bigger deal. And WWE, this is what's great about competition, is this is only the beginning, guys. This is only the first one. This is only the first major defection that we've seen where somebody has actively left one company to go to another. I guess you could count Daniel Bryan in that, but it hasn't gone the other way yet. We haven't seen anybody from AEW go the other way because AEW is too young for things like that to happen. But the older they get, the more these contracts will come up, and the more they're going to be able to negotiate with both sides. And we're going to see this a lot. It might come down to some people for money. Some people it might be creative. Some people it just might be their overall career and life legacy and resume that they're trying to build. And Cody might want to blaze this path for himself to be able to say, I was in WWE. I have the courage to walk away, make a name for myself, and go back there and show them that I was worth the money they were paying me. And I wouldn't even be surprised. I'll say right now, and this could be a prediction 2 to 5 years in the future, but Cody will be back in AEW. He will. It might even be, maybe something falls through with the WWE side of things and he comes back later this year. I don't think Cody Rhodes is going to disappear for a long time. I don't think he's going to leave wrestling. He's too hot to leave wrestling right now. He's got great opportunities. He's got money on the table. He's got 2 companies that want him, and one company might want him financially a little bit more than the other. And who knows, maybe he can work out things with WWE. Hey, I'm going to come work for you, but you got to give me an out. You are not going to Mustafa Ali me if I don't like it here, type of thing. So who knows what type of clauses he's going to be able to get in his contract. You don't see many pieces of talent get to, negotiate specific things. So I don't know what kind of, control Cody would have over some of WWE's controlling ways in terms of how he would be presented there, what his name would be, unless he wants to do Stardust. But if he doesn't want to do it, he's going to say, I'm not doing Stardust. And he'll probably keep his theme song, perhaps. It's mediocre, but I believe he owns it. Didn't he have it made and created all for himself? I don't think AEW owns his theme song, but I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure if Cody leaves, he can take that. But that's just speculation. I didn't really look into that. You guys might know the answer on that. So I don't fault Cody at all for this. What's going to suck about this whole situation is that you have an interesting situation that really is kind of fun. Young fans don't have any idea what this was like back in WCW days when you guys had going back and forth left and right. I find it very exciting that this is a possibility now again. And I said that 2 years ago when AEW started. I'm like, if they find success, when they're around for, 10, 20 years, you're going to see so much of this going on. And that was really fun back in the 90s and even the 80s when you saw guys, moving from promotion to promotion. So this brings this all back. And I just wish sometimes that the fans could appreciate how kind of cool this is. We haven't had this in 20 years. TNA was there. Guys went there. Flair, Hogan, Angle, RVD. Lots of WWE guys went over there, but it just wasn't the same. It doesn't feel like this. This feels more like WCW and WWE, where the last 20 years just felt like WWE and, some annoying little kid tugging on, the big guy's jacket. It's completely different now. This is a major North American company with a cable TV deal on mainstream TV with big name talent who can negotiate just as strong as WWE. They're just as strong financially as WWE. And this is great. And I don't care where guys go. Like I've said 10 million times on this podcast, I don't pick a side of this war. I just want wrestling to be good. So I don't give a shit. Somebody jumps to WWE and goes to AEW or vice versa. So that's what sucks about this thing the point I was trying to make is that how cool this is, it's going to turn toxic. Twitter is just acting like a complete bunch of batshit insane, mentally unstable idiots right now over this. Because if you're anti-AEW, now you got to struggle with the fact of, fuck, I've been shitting on Cody Rhodes for the past 2 years. Now he's coming to WWE. I have to twist my fucking beliefs to now support him. And then if you're on the other side of that coin and you fucking hate WWE, then you're going to, all of a sudden you were probably praising Cody before and now you're going to, oh, he's fucking stupid for going there. So again, you're going to see people who are barely out of high school, probably not even in college, don't even have jobs, and if they do, they suck, and they're going to pass judgment on Cody Rhodes and the decision he makes for his life and his family. And we never judge anybody for that. Cody can do whatever he wants. We wish him the best. Sure, Cody has been a touch annoying, but I've always prefaced any Cody critiques with, I like Cody, I've met Cody, he's great, but I kind of understand, some of the complaints about him from a personality standpoint. I do kind of feel like there might be an ego there. I'm not sure if this is totally about money, but now that AEW's roster has grown, we've seen Danielson, we've seen Punk, we've seen guys like that come in. Cody ain't making Danielson and Punk money. He certainly ain't making Punk money. Maybe he feels like he deserves Punk money, but he's not Punk. So maybe he can go to WWE, and these idiots are they have to hold up a shield just to block all the money from hitting them in the face. They've got so much of it. They can easily afford to shell out $3 million to Cody Rhodes, but maybe Tony Khan isn't willing to shell out that kind of money for Cody because of what it could do to future contracts. So all that stuff you have to take in consideration here, especially with contracts, and you have to try, you don't want to get to where WCW did, where they were actually writing that favored nation shit that they had written into the contracts, where if anybody comes in and is paid more, then your contract is automatically upped to that. All that stuff can be locker room and morale killers. So you don't want to overpay somebody. I think Cody is fantastic. I don't think Cody's worth $3 million a year, though. So if WWE is willing to pay him that, then that's their business. And they can bring him in and maybe do a lot better with him this time around. But, as we've seen from WWE for the past, I don't know how many years now, it's the most uninspiring and downright fucking awful programming you could ever ask for. Sure, they're bright spots. Sure, wrestlers are going to work their asses off and have great matches, and some of them are going to get over despite the fucking clown show that they work for. But at the end of the day, it's still just WWE's redundant, formulaic shit. So I don't personally know why anybody would want to go back there, but I'm not them. I haven't been talking to WWE. I haven't been negotiating contracts. I haven't been talking about what I'm going to do. I haven't talked about money. That's Cody's business. So whatever he's talking to WWE about, obviously, is attractive enough for him to potentially go back there. This is the guy that smashed the Triple H throne with a sledgehammer on an AEW pay-per-view. That blows my mind. That there's always been a little bit of bad blood there, but I do know the sides were in, had contact with each other because of the Rhodes name and all of that. And it took Cody a while to kind of get that. So I know that Cody has always probably had some contacts in WWE, but, for a talent of his level in AEW and somebody with a front office job to leave after only 2.5 years is pretty shocking and pretty surprising. So this was all, by the way, broke by Fightful Select earlier on today, and within, I think, 15 minutes, AEW, Brandy, and Cody all confirmed it in individual statements online, which I'll probably read here in a minute. And a lot of the wrestling world reacted. I think a lot of the AEW stars tweeted wishing them well, wishing them the best. There has been a lot of talk about Cody and his, basically how he gets along with some of the other members of the Elite backstage. We've heard rumors within the last year that there might be some sort of a falling out, and he doesn't really associate or talk to the Bucks or Kenny very much anymore for whatever reason. We've heard all of that chatter all year long. So you can't be totally surprised the fact that Cody kind of seemed like he was on Cody Island, so to speak, like he was kind of separate. All the storylines he was doing was all separate from the Elite. There was no run-ins, there was no crossover stuff, nothing like that. He really seemed to be separated and on on his own, and then they had the Roads to the Top, and he was on the Go Big show, and then he ended racism and had all of his stupid promos, got a Transformers tattoo on his neck. He's been a busy man, so I think that he's kind of been doing his own thing, thinking about his own life, his own brand, his own legacy, his own career, and he's making his own path for himself, and maybe he feels that, if you're in a clique and you got a group of friends and all of a sudden you don't feel like you're as close with them as you used to or something, you might have to go find a new clique. It might be something like that. But I also think Cody has an opportunity here to create a very interesting path through pro wrestling, especially if he does go back to WWE and then years down the line he comes back to AEW. He will be welcomed with a hero's welcome probably in AEW. One of the guys that got it started, and if he went back and to WWE and had a good run there, and everything remains, professional. Cody, it seems like both sides have taken shots at each other. I mentioned the throne and the sledgehammer thing. It'll be interesting to see Cody go back to WWE and potentially, interact with Triple H or something like that. But, he could go back there and then do a 3-year deal and then leave and then thank them and leave on good terms like Adam Cole did or like Danielson did and then go back to AEW. He could, and we've seen that too back in WCW. His brother, by the way, Dustin Rhodes was, I think when he came in with Dusty, he started in WWE, immediately went to WCW, came back to WWE in 95 as Goldust, left WWE for WCW in like 98 when he became 7 or whatever year that was. And then what? He came back to WWE in, no, I guess he came back, it would have been like 99. He stayed Goldust through 99 and then maybe left in 99, 2000, then came back in like 2002 after the buyout in the Rumble, had a little run there, let go shortly after the plane ride from hell, but had been brought back many times, and then even in the 2010s, where he teamed with Cody and won Tag Team Gold against The Shield, and one of my favorite matches ever on Raw. So, back in those days, you did have a lot of talent going back and forth, and Dustin was one of them that switched sides probably more than anybody else. I'm trying to think who else. The only other guy I can think of is a backstage dude, Terry Taylor. How many times he ping-ponged back between the two companies was insane. I want to say it was upwards of 6 times that he bounced. But, you would see that a lot more often. You'd see guys jump once, twice, sometimes 3 times. And Cody, I think, has a chance to, really do that and work everywhere. This is a guy that at the end of his career can say, I worked AEW, I worked WWE, I worked at WWE's shitty version of ECW, I think perhaps, didn't he? He worked Japan. He was in Global Force Wrestling for a while. Did he ever show his face in TNA? I don't remember. He might have. I mean, he really has made the rounds, Ring of Honor. So he should be proud of that, and if he wants, and he's been doing that now for the last, I don't even recall what year he left WWE. You guys can fill me in. But, whatever year that was, he's been gone for a long time now doing all of that. So he might feel like now I'm pushing 40 or however old he is. Maybe it's time to go back to the Fed, pull in that big money, get as much exposure for myself as possible, because as great as AEW is doing, at the end of the day, it's WWE's title belt that are in Super Bowl celebrations. You know what I mean? So going there can still, even though I think WWE is just a big fucking pile of idiots over there, they still are a major global brand and they are going to give you a ton of exposure. So if those are Cody's motivations and he's thinking more about his own career, you cannot fucking criticize him at all. You cannot sit on your ass with your $8 an hour and tell Cody how to live his life. Fuck you. I've seen enough of that shit on Twitter today. It's been, it's kind of comical if anything else, but to watch people judge somebody else's life is mind-blowing. Especially when so much of it is driven by whatever side of the fence you're on in this stupid war. So it's going to get ugly. Twitter's going to be toxic. And people who are anti-AEW or anti-WWE, they don't know how to think now. They're all confused and they're twisted in the wind. And some of it's funny, but most of it is really fucking sad and pathetic. So I would like to tell the wrestling fans to grow up, but this is Wrestling Twitter where we just don't grow up. So in terms of what Cody's going to do, when he's going to show up, that's all up for speculation at this point. You guys can let me know. We could potentially see him at WrestleMania. I don't see any way we see him in Elimination Chamber. There's no reason for him to go to Saudi Arabia. But WrestleMania, I think, might be likely, because unless he had some sort of a no-compete attached to his EVP contract, he should be good to go. I mean, he's been working without a contract in AEW, so whenever he signs, if he signs, he can appear I'm assuming immediately, whenever he wants, just in time for WrestleMania. You have to wonder if that's maybe on his radar too to get this deal done, because if they bring me in, I can appear at Mania. Maybe in a match, maybe just show up there, maybe do something, but he can be there, him and Brandy. Maybe they can come out to the ring and surprise everybody at WrestleMania and cut a promo, and then Miz and Maurice show up and they battle back and forth and we got a mixed tag. I don't know. There's a lot you could do with Cody. He could come back as Stardust. But Cody's a guy in AEW. I almost felt like he was a little bit too far down the ladder to hold the world title in AEW when you look at all the talent they have there. I don't know if his situation is going to be any better in WWE. If he's actually going to be a world champion contender, knowing WWE, I would probably say no on that. But, that might be something that's in discussion. He'll say, hey, I'm going to come back, but I want to be at the top of the card. WWE might negotiate that shit now. So they'll go, okay, we'll treat you. We'll promise you a big push. I know they promised Kenny and the Young Bucks and Cody, I think, all big pushes prior to AEW forming when they offered them all deals and they turned them down so they could start AEW. So I'm sure that Cody is smart enough to not sabotage his own career and legacy in life by saying, oh, I'm just going to sign away my entire life to WWE like I'm an NXT rookie. He's not that stupid. He's going to make sure that hopefully, and I hope a lot more talent does this, that they are protected from WWE stupidity. Not necessarily creative control or any of that doesn't work for me, brother shit, but just enough in the contract that will protect you in case the batshit insane company you work for wants to dress you up in a fucking chicken suit or something. Like, I think he needs to have protections there because WWE's crazy. And I think Cody's smart enough with his team of lawyers and all that, people that are far more schooled and educated on this type of stuff than we are. They've got that shit under control. So I wouldn't worry too much about this or that or whatnot. And also, stop saying it's a work. It's not. It's not a work. I've seen that all over the place. Oh, this is a total work. No, it isn't a work. Can it turn into a work one day in the future? Sure. But it's not a work today. So just know that, because by the time I start reading the chat, I'm sure there's going to be some work comments in there. It ain't one. By the way, thumbs up or low for a video this important. So hit the thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. And please subscribe. Deshaun's got him coming back to Raw after Mania. Man, the Raws after Mania have been weak in recent years. We need a big surprise or a comeback. So that could be possible. I think Cody would probably want to be at Mania though, but the night after Raw or night after Mania was usually reserved for some sort of big surprise, so that could be it. But again, if you find yourself in the unique position of not having a no-compete, what's the point of giving yourself one anyway? You know what I mean? Like, why give yourself a 30-day when it's so rare for somebody to appear on both shows like within a month or even a week sometimes? Take advantage of that. That's something you're not going to see every day, because most of these contracts, I think, likely, people who jump back and forth, there's only going to be a few maybe that have that opportunity to jump. So I think if you find yourself available to go there right away, you should go there ASAP. That's what I think. Kevin asks, I would be so happy and emotional if he shows up. WWE would be better and ratings would go up by a lot. What do you think? I don't think ratings would go up by a lot. I don't think Cody is I think the segment that he's in, his debut segment, is going to draw great numbers. I think when the WWE posts the YouTube video, it's going to do millions of views. It's going to create a ton of buzz. But, Raw's and SmackDown's ratings have been relatively consistent. Raw is anywhere from 1.4 to 1.8, and SmackDown's, 2 to 2.2 million, somewhere in there. And AEW is kind of the same thing. They seem to be about the 900,000 to 1.2 area now. So both of these companies, do relatively stable ratings, and I think bringing somebody in could do maybe a temporary or a quick boost in the ratings because it's so interesting. But I don't think Cody just being there in the company is just going to make them double their ratings now. Not at all. As much as I like Cody, he ain't moving needles like that. Trey Williams, Greg, I'm sorry, I disagree. Cody Rhodes coming back to WWE again is ridiculous. Come on, I'm on the fans' side. What, are all fans against this? I'm not. I think some fans would be like, wouldn't give a shit. And I understand, like, they have they have a right to feel this way. Nobody was really thrilled with the way Cody was treated in WWE. But like I said, he's probably going to make sure he's a little bit protected this time. And who knows what his motivation is. It could just be money. I mean, if AEW is offering him $1 million and WWE's offering him 2.5, what the fuck do you think he's going to do? So you can't judge like that. You can't tell somebody they shouldn't make their own decision. It's funny when an anti-vaxxer or an anti-masker is going to tell Cody he's making the right call. Isn't it his body is his choice? And isn't his life his choice? Shouldn't he be able to do whatever he wants? Just like you scream about every fucking day when you're bitching about a fucking piece of cloth over your snout. So I don't think it's fair or mature to criticize anybody for any sort of personal life, financial, business decision they make. You are not them. They are them. So they can do it. Now, in terms of a wrestling fan, sure. If you're a big fan of Cody and AEW, hey, look, I've been there. My heart sank to the floor and is still down there. I still haven't picked it up. And it's been 28 years since Randy Savage left WWE and went to WCW. That gutted me. But I never hated Randy for it. Randy still remained my second favorite wrestler of all time. I was just heartbroken. I didn't want to see him there. I'm like, ugh. He just felt like WWE was where he belonged forever. So I understand, from a fan standpoint, that if you want to see a wrestler work somewhere and they go somewhere else, that's deflating. I had to watch Bret Hart go to WCW, so trust me, I get it. But in terms of him personally and fans saying, oh, you're stupid for doing that, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, So I think fans should chill on that. You know what I mean? I'm going to go back here and answer some super chats as well. Good point by Max Pokebruh 27. Thank you for the $2. Jeff Jarrett jumped a lot too. Yeah, Jarrett was back and forth a lot. And all his shit was different though. There was always weird. He always left on bad terms. He came to WWE, after his, USWA run, finally came in. Then he left on that In Your House when he got mad, and he jumped to WCW and kind of was like a satellite member of the Horsemen, sort of. He was kind of hanging around with them, the Steve McMichael shit. But in the end, it didn't really leave there on good terms. Came back to WWE in 97, only to cut the promo bitching about Bischoff and Hogan, only to go back to WCW with Russo in 99 and become champion there. And of course, have that strange run, only to go to TNA and basically be TNA's Triple H for a decade plus. And then finally, after all that heat, all that bad blood, coming back, whatever year it was, going into the Hall of Fame. Yes, he jumped a lot too, but his situation was different. It felt like, because there was always some sort of controversy attached to all of those. Thomas, thank you for the $5. If NXT didn't suck, I'd love if Cody went down there to work. Me too. Imagine if NXT was still the black and gold with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and the Undisputed. Triple H is still in charge. Karrion Kross and Keith Lee are still there, and this brand is actually competing with AEW to where NXT is AEW's primary competitor instead of WWE as a whole. And then Cody went there, where NXT uses his dad's name a lot. Dusty is kind of like the godfather of NXT because of his early workings there when they got launched, and, they have the Dusty Cup and all of that. So I can totally see, if it was still around in its original form, maybe Cody going there and, working in NXT, that would put him side by side with the dude whose throne he smashed, but whatever. You can work it out. Bygones, all that type of stuff. Chris Ludecke, good to see you, man. Appreciate the $5 from you. If this is definitely true and Cody doesn't re-sign with AEW, in a way it all goes back to him losing to Jericho, removing himself as a top guy. That's right. He lost to Jericho. The stip there was, if he loses, he can never get a shot at the AEW title ever again. So does this void that stipulation now? If his contract, in kayfabe, obviously, but if he leaves AEW, goes to WWE for 2 to 5 years, comes back to AEW, can he challenge now, or will they forget about it? Somebody will bring it up. MJF will remind him. So, you got to think about guys like MJF, who already, have you read his Twitter, ever, or do you guys follow him? He always teases going to WWE. Him and The Miz tweet friendly shit. MJF shits on everybody, but he talks about how much he respects The Miz and teases already that when his contract is up in AEW, he's going to listen to WWE, and they probably will want him. Think about, we've heard about rumors of Jade Cargill, WWE being interested in her, being interested in Wardlow. Wardlow and Jade Cargill specifically look like WWE people. I don't know how either one of them went into that performance center and left without a contract, just based on their look alone. So I can understand them wanting people like that, but when you think about other pieces of talent like MJF, who is a bubbling star and is stupidly young, that kid is about to make so much fucking money because AEW is not going to want to lose him. AEW, I know, sees him as the future. They see him as I know this is a big name to use, but possibly like The Rock. We're going to get an MJF babyface run one day, and he'll be great on the mic when he does it. I hope that's far off because MJF as a heel has got so much gas left in the tank, but we will see that. And considering how young he is, how much future he has ahead of him, he doesn't work a crazy style to where he'll probably have a long in-ring career. WWE certainly will probably offer him a deal or offer him some money, which Tony Khan then, because not wanting to lose MJF, will pay him whatever he needs to. So MJF is about to get paid in the next few years, guarantee. And that is what I'm talking about. That's what's great about competition is now these boys are getting paid, and that's nice to see. Take these fuckers to the cleaners. The Khans have $1 billion. WWE, is recording record profits every year. Fuck them. Make them pay through the nose, whatever it takes. And I applaud anybody that can squeeze as many nickels out of those companies as possible. So I think MJF's another name that you're going to have to keep your eye on when his contract does expire. And when it comes up for expiration, Tony Khan's just going to have to say, hey, what do you need? What do I need to pay you? I want to keep you type of thing. So it's interesting. That's what's great about competition is it just makes shit interesting. It's like super interesting. Deshaun, good to see you, man. Appreciate that $5 from you. I wonder if Cody is going to keep the blonde hair or go back to black. Also, you have to watch yesterday's Pat McAfee show with Brock. It's freaking awesome. Saw a couple clips. Some people tweeted me some stuff, but haven't seen the whole thing. He's great. I can't believe all this time a guy that never really said much is now one of the most entertaining guys to listen to and hear speak. He is great. The fact that he ever needed a mouthpiece at all seems crazy now, doesn't it? I like flannel shirt, cowboy hat wearing Brock. Let me scroll up a little further just to make sure I didn't miss any super chats earlier. I did from Deshaun. Thank you for that $2 earlier on. Stardust is all sports entertainment. That would be a funny looking graphic if they did something like that. And you got to think too, if he does go to WWE, I don't think he's going to do, how like the AEW haters are like, oh, all WWE guys do is go there and complain, and they don't really. But there's certain things that they say maybe on podcasts or hints that they drop. But I think Cody going back to WWE, he might say some interesting things on the mic about AEW. I don't think anything malicious or, anything too horrible, but he's probably going to take a small shot, throw just a glimmer of shade towards them, you would think, of saying, I was there, but I wanted to come back to, the big time or whatever and really make a name for myself. And there's one bucket list thing that I haven't done. And I don't know, maybe it's a main event of WrestleMania or something like that. And I know I can't end my career until I do that and, and honor my father and do something that he never did or nobody in my family ever did. His main event of WrestleMania. And maybe that, now that WrestleMania is our 2-night events, he has a chance to do that, where I wouldn't think so prior to that. So who knows? But I think in his initial promo, what is that going to be like? And plus WWE, they don't like to acknowledge the competition. They don't like to bring them up unless it's super subtle. So I can't see Cody coming out there and talking about AEW. He'll probably just be super vague about it. Maybe where I was before, or, I knew this is better than where I was, or he's not. I don't think WWE is going to want him to sit there and ramble for 5 minutes about where he used to work, where AEW might be a little bit better with that with, CM Punk. Hey, in 2005, I left professional wrestling. In 2021, I returned, that sort of thing. I don't think it's going to be that bad. And I don't think WWE wants to draw any attention to AEW at all. But when you bring Cody in, obviously that's going to make fans think of AEW, especially if he keeps the music, which I'm wondering about, like we said earlier. So when he comes in, that will be interesting. I'm trying to think. CM Punk and Randy Savage are the only ones that I thought, or CM Punk's the only guy that took the exact song. Some guys like, I think Randy Savage and some other guys in WCW, they had WCW versions of their WWE theme, but never really kept the exact whole same song intact from company to company. That's really rare. So if he did that, of course, that's going to bring up a lot of AEW feelings to see Cody coming out in a WWE ring with the American Nightmare gear and that song. It's going to immediately feel like we're watching AEW on a WWE show, and it might even feel a little Forbidden Door-ish. It will. So this whole thing is really interesting. Now, we should also bring up Brandy. She is also leaving the company with Cody Rhodes. So you would think that if they bring Cody in, they're going to bring Brandy with him to potentially probably be his valet, unless they have some other plans for her. I hope they allow her to be Brandy Rhodes and she doesn't go back to being Eden or whatever she was. But coming in there with him, probably just as a valet, could be interesting as well. So, and I mentioned their statements earlier on. I don't want to read all of them because, I don't want to bore you guys. But once the story was broke that they were on their way out of AEW, all three parties released statements, I think within 15 or 20 minutes of Fightful Select's article this morning. So the first statement came from AEW, which I have actually right here for you. So this is pretty short. It says, Cody and Brandy Rhodes were integral to the launch of AEW Wrestling. Cody's ability combined with his boldness and his passion for our industry and his love for community outreach helped AEW deliver on our mission to give fans what they needed for far too long. Something new, innovative, and lasting. Brandy helped us shape the AEW story, and I appreciate how hard she fought for us in the ring and out of the ring, competing in the women's division while advancing our efforts at inclusion and civic causes, including great partnerships with Culture City and the American Heart Association. I have immense respect for and appreciation for Cody and Brandy, and I wish them both the best as they move on from AEW. Thank you, Cody and Brandy. Tony Khan, CEO, President of All Elite Wrestling. So Tony kept it pretty simple, but he did thank them for their time there and acknowledge them and all that. That was very nice, very respectful, but it sounds like the contract negotiations just weren't able to be agreed upon. So Cody released a statement as well, as you see here. First, I want to thank Tony Khan. He's taken the baton and ran with it, and it was an honor to work with him, to work for him, and to know him on a personal level. He's a beautiful soul. Obviously, need to thank my incredible wife and the mother of my baby girl, Brandy, for all of her love and support through this journey together and the amazing relationships she fostered with Culture City and the American Heart Association. I also need to thank Nick and Matt Jackson. These two, whether they know it or not, took an undesired and not confident Lil Cub and gifted me the confidence to become a leader of the pack. Kenneth Omega, Chris Jericho, Chicken, we started the fire. I must thank Tim, Keith, Greg, W, and the amazing production crew who understood and captured the vision with such grace. I can't name everybody, but thank you to Megan, Margaret, Harrington, Jeff Jones, Dana, Tony Schiavone, Byrne, Raph, or Rafe probably, and the hardest worker in the game, QT Marshall, for propping me up and kicking me in the ass when I was running on fumes. I must thank all my kiddos, MJF, Jade, Sammy, Darby, Lee, Ricky, Tom, The Guns, Brock, Velvet, Nyla, Aubrey, Turner, Vanilla, Solo, Spears, Julia, Anna, Will, Wardlow, Sonny, Fuego One, and of course, Negative One. While we're at it, give Jade the Cody Vader. I don't even know what that is. Also, need to take a moment to thank the great partners at Warner Media, including Brett, Sam, and the rest of the team. I have so many milestones and beautiful memories of this renaissance. Through the sweat, blood, tears, literal fire, and all of that, I left it all on the mat. Everything pales in comparison to the final contribution I was empowered to lead at the company, the community outreach team. In the most inward moments, your outward behavior and your ability to take fame and influence and do something of value for the communities you visit, whether the cameras are on or off, is the highest honor. I am confident Amanda Huber will lead the department with style. I'm so proud of my creations and contributions, the items I supported and collaborated on with such wonderful professionals. Sorry, it's hard to read that because the font is really small. So that's something else I didn't mention earlier on, is that I think Amanda Huber is stepping in to take over the duties that Brandy Rhodes had as, I don't even know if CFO or CBO, Chief Branding Officer, what was she? So I don't know if Amanda's coming in to take over that or if Amanda's going to be heading up the community outreach stuff. But I know they brought Amanda in last October to be a part of stuff, but it sounds like she's going to get some more responsibility now that Brandy is gone. So that's good for Amanda. And I'm glad that AEW is really, really doing right by the Huber family. That's nice to see. So I'm not going to bother reading you Brandy's statement as well. I didn't want to read all three of them, but I thought Cody's and AEW's were quite important. Cody did reveal a lot there. He mentioned a lot of people specifically by name and wished Amanda Huber well, and he seemed to be very graceful and thankful and, appreciative of his time there, at least right now. We'll see when the jump is made, if he's got any shade to throw, but I would assume that it's the smartest business move to not burn any bridges if you don't have to. What's the point of crossing a bridge and then just, shooting a bazooka at it for no reason? You got no reason to blow up that bridge. That bridge was good to you. Think of what that bridge did for Cody, and that allowed him to really develop a really huge part of his career and legacy that's going to go on for a long time to be remembered, all of his time in AEW. And it's a place, like I said a couple of times already, a place that he can return to down the road. Wouldn't be surprised at all. So I think it's probably in everybody's best interest to keep everything as professional as possible. But at some point, Cody's going to have a microphone in his hand. At some point, Cody's going to do an interview. I don't think WWE's quite as lenient with like podcast stuff, so I don't think Cody's going to go right over to some podcast and spill his beans, but he might. He might go on. I don't think he'll go on oral sessions, but he could. He could also, possibly go on the Pat McAfee show or something like that, or Ariel Helwani. That's possible. So I think we could hear some basically reasoning from Cody in the upcoming weeks and months as to what actually led to this decision. That will all be really interesting to listen to and hear and unpack. So we wish Cody the best. We'll wrap up the Cody stuff here and get into Stone Cold Steve Austin. But this is really, really huge news. And honestly, it's news that I wasn't expecting to see yet. I didn't think we would have a defection this big leaving AEW for WWE for a little while longer. I thought it would take a couple years because I thought all the top talent there would remain there. It would be, maybe even 2 to 5 years from now before any major talent. I thought a lot of little talent was going to leave. I thought, Big Swole and maybe a few others jumping ship to WWE were very likely. But any major guy, the Kennys, the Bucks, the Codys and stuff, wasn't expecting that for a while, even being possible for a while. So the fact that it is crazy, and it'll be fun to find out what led to it, what was AEW not giving Cody that he wanted, and what is WWE giving Cody that he wants. What is it? What was the real decision here? Other than obviously probably doing a great deal of good for Cody's family financially. Other than that, I'm curious, what made that grass seem greener over there? I'm not mad about it. Don't care. Wish Cody the best. And interested to hear why this decision was made, but certainly don't have any snotty dick asshole-ish judgment to pass down on Cody. He can do whatever he wants, regardless of how I feel about it. We'll get into Stone Cold Steve Austin here in 1 second. Let me cruise back over to the chat. I know I got super dupers running in that I need to answer. Let's get to them. Zane G, good to see you, man. Zane is a great dude. He is always in the chat, being very engaging, very generous with the super chats. He's great on Twitter. I follow him over there. Thank you for everything, Zane, and I appreciate that $20. Have Cody Rhodes do the Drew McIntyre route. We talked about Drew just a little while ago. Have Cody sit in the crowd of an NXT pay-per-view, groom him to win a tournament. It doesn't have to be the Rumble like McIntyre, but something like it, and then win the WWE Championship. Now, I like all of that, but like we talked about earlier, I think it would be much better if Cody was doing this in a black and gold NXT environment, not the current bullshit that they've turned it into. But the way it was, don't you miss those days? Don't you miss the takeovers when after a big match, you'd go backstage to an interview or you'd go to a video package and then you'd come back and the lights would come on and some new signing would be in the front row. We've seen Keith Lee and Riddle and Robert Roode and, and all the guys that jumped or got signed by WWE, the indie darlings, when they were doing that. That was so fun. That would be huge for Cody too, to have the lights come on and he's just standing there and the crowd fucking pops. That would be great. But based on, considering what NXT looks like now, I don't think that's a good, that would be a good route to go. But if you did have him blaze a path that eventually gets him to the WWE title, his journey there could be very fun. And it could be like a personal journey, something he wants to set out to do. This might be a personal life goal. I can't retire until I'm WWE champion. So I have to sign with them and try to go for it. That could be it. It could be and that could be legit too. That could be how his character feels, but that really could be how he feels in real life. Maybe it's just a bucket list thing. I never got that gold. I've always known I was good enough for it. Didn't they come real close to putting the world title on him? Did he win it in a scramble match for like 5 seconds or something? I forgot. He might have the big gold, but I could be wrong about that. I don't remember. That rings a bell during his dashing days. But, for him to, if that's a personal thing that he wants to accomplish, winning the WWE title, they got 2 belts over there. Got to think about that too. There's 2 championships to win. And there's a lot more if you want to be on the undercard. You got fucking 6 different tag team championships you can go after, and 3 different mid-card titles you can go after. So he's got, he could be featured there more. But yeah, that 2 world title thing and the 2 main event, 2 WrestleMania night thing could be attractive to somebody like that. Hey, I can win that title, and it'd be a personal, personal goal of mine. I'd like to accomplish it. Don't know if I will, but I have to try. Maybe that could be his mentality. You got to think about that stuff too. So, if Cody is going there, you'd have to assume his main goal is to secure the WWE title, and I kind of hope he gets it. I don't care. They got 2 titles. What's the fucking difference if Cody holds one? And yeah, there's been a lot of guys like Drew McIntyre who've gone that route, who know that they're good enough to be in WWE. WWE just can't see it, so you leave, you go make a name for yourself, and you build up your reputation. You come back for big money, and that's exactly what Cody did. Props to him for it, I got that one from Deshaun. Rodrigo, you're next. Thanks for the $2. Could the Bunny be top star if WWE goes there? The Bunny from AEW? No. I think the Bunny will be second tier. I think the Bunny will be, not the Baileys or the Beckys or something like that. She'll be underneath. She could be somebody that could jump. I mean, I like her, but I don't see her as somebody that could come into the WWE and really stand out among the other women. She looks the same as they all do. Luigi DeRaw Gaming, appreciate the $2 from you too. What if Cody comes back as the GM of NXT? Be a step down. Cody's putting on phenomenal matches right now. He is as hot as he's ever been. And when you have a career that's physical like that, you got to wrestle while you're young and while your body can do it. And I think stepping out of the ring now to have an on-air role is something that he'd be doing later on in his life, capitalizing on his in-ring career that he made for himself, plus his name. And I think GM stuff could be something that Cody could do down the line, returning to AEW in 10 years and becoming their GM or something, sure. But I'm not doing that now with Cody. If I'm bringing him in as a big deal. I mean, one of the AEW's top stars has jumped ship. You don't put that person in NXT. You put that person on Raw or SmackDown, for sure. So that's where I expect him. But you never know. WWE's crazy. Chris Miner, appreciate the $2 from you. Stardust versus Stone Cold at Mania confirmed. Man, that would be quite the match. Stardust and Stone Cold. I don't think they're going to be wrestling each other, but it is possible we could see them both at Mania. Monique, good to see you. Appreciate the $5. Cody Vader is his entrance when he comes out from the middle of the stage. He's giving that to Jade. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying that. I thought it was a move or something. Okay. I never really noticed that about Cody I guess he does come through the middle, doesn't he? Huh. Yeah, cool. AJ, appreciate the 5 from you. What's up, Greg? Gonna say, part of me doubts Austin's gonna do the match, but then again, I doubted Edge returning when the rumor was out. AJ, we're gonna get into Stone Cold right now because I have plenty of thoughts on that. Yeah, cool. Perfect time. Perfect segue. Okay, so Cody was not world champion. I'm thinking of somebody else. Somebody else like kind of won the title for a second in one of those matches, like was technically a world champion, but they lost the title in the same match. I thought it was Cody. I really thought it was Cody. If not Cody, it might have been Ziggler. Maybe it was Ziggler before he cashed in on Alberto. This was maybe years before. Might have been him. Cody was kind of in my head. But if anybody would know, you guys would know. So thank you for that. Also, one more super chat before we get into Austin. Appreciate that, Chris. Never thought in a million years the first person to jump from AEW to WWE is one of the founders of AEW. Crazy times we live in. That's basically been the theme of this whole episode so far, is that we expected some defections. They're going to happen, especially the older AEW gets, the more talent you're going to see going. Right now, it's one-sided because AEW is so young, they don't have any contracts coming up. But, the older they get, 2 years goes by, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, you're going to have all sorts of guys going back and forth, and It's going to be fun. Fans, please don't ruin it for yourself. I lived through the competition. I was in my mid-20s during the Monday Night Wars and the WCW and WWE stuff. It can be so fun if you'll just let it. Just let it be fun. Stop being such a cockbag. Have fun, everybody. Please, please, please. Oh, not Steve is right. Brian Kendrick. Thank you. Oh, but they're saying Ziggler did too. So, okay, it's Kendrick. Yeah, thank you, guys. That's right. It was Brian Kendrick. Technically, he has been champion. Wow. That is crazy. Right on. Brian Kendrick. Thank you for reminding me. So anyway, we got to get into Stone Cold because I've been talking for an hour here and we haven't even mentioned this guy yet. So last night, Monday night, during Monday Night Raw, I had no intention of coming up here and doing a Raw review because we had another sci-fi show and Chamber is coming up this week and I just did not give a shit. So I wasn't going to really come up and do anything last night, but I was watching the show a little bit. And during the show, as I'm tweeting, I see Sean Ross Sapp, I see Brian Alvarez, I see Wrestle Votes, maybe somebody else, maybe Cassidy Haynes, can't remember else who said it, who was tweeting stuff. They were all tweeting like, holy shit, or if what I'm hearing is true, or no way. So we're like, please tell us the news, please tell us the news. So I thought it was going to take a while for this to come out. And then, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes later, it's been reported that WWE has made an overture to Stone Cold Steve Austin to actually get back in the ring at WrestleMania. Now, you might not believe me, but last night before this even started, when Kevin Owens was cutting his backstage promo and he was shitting on Texas, I wrote down Austin versus Owens at Mania confirmed as a joke. But then I was like, nah, and I deleted it. Didn't tweet it. Literally 30 minutes later, the Austin news breaks and we're like, well, shit. There's a guy that started randomly shitting on Texas. Not that Owens, can't shit on the town that he's in to get some cheap heat. He can do that, but it seemed out of left field, and a lot of people noticed it on Twitter. What is Kevin Owens' finisher? And so I'm like, holy shit! That if Austin is going to come back and work a match, it seems like there really is only one opponent for him because he's going to have to work somebody safe. He's going to have to work a veteran, and he's going to have to work somebody that can, possibly have great promo battles with him and the build up and the lead up and whatnot. And Kevin Owens, he's not in the world title picture right now, but he's definitely valuable enough for WWE to keep around. He chose WWE and re-signing with them over jumping to AEW. So again, it might be a deal where, hey, re-sign with us. These are the plans we have for you. We're going to put you in a match with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. I'd be like, where do I sign? That might be a situation where maybe money is secondary. I get to work a WrestleMania match against Stone Cold. This could be one way to give a big FU to CM Punk. If we ever thought we were going to get Stone Cold back in the ring, I thought we all believed we were going to get that maybe 7-8 years ago with CM Punk and Steve Austin, just like we were hearing about Steve Austin wrestling Hulk Hogan one year at WrestleMania. All this shit fell through. So Kevin Owens is so well liked. He's so well respected. I know Austin likes him and would probably be more than happy to work with him. I think Owens would be safe with Austin, and I think he would be a good, safe worker for Austin to get in the ring with. Now, a lot of people are surprised. A lot of people don't think that Austin can wrestle anymore or that he should get in the ring. He is 57 years old. He appears to be in great shape, at least his arms do. I think if he wrestles this match, he'll probably wrestle with a shirt on, but he might not, maybe a cut-off sleeve type of thing. But when you think about Austin's style, he's not stunning Steve anymore. He's not diving off the top rope. What was Steve Austin's moveset? Punch, kick, Thez press, and stomps in the corner. Like, he works a style, I think, that he could do it. He's got the same neck thing as Edge, and I think that him not getting in the ring before had nothing to do with health. I think it had more to do with, is it right for him? Does it feel right? Does he want to, is he worried about maybe tarnishing his retirement against The Rock in his last match, and all of that stuff may be factored in, plus the Hogan match. Who the fuck are you going to put over in that? And who's going to agree to do what? And then the CM Punk match never really materialized, but there was never really any talk that the reason these matches didn't happen is because Austin wasn't physically able. I think in a protected, simple match with some punches, kicks, and a stunner, Austin could definitely get physical. He's been getting physical since his last match. That very next year, he had like a full-on brawl on the outside of the ring with Brock Lesnar, didn't he? Like in late 2003, early 2004, maybe leading up to the Mania Goldberg match, perhaps, whenever that went down. He rode out there in the four-wheeler, and the two of them beat the shit out of each other. He was taking bumps, hard bumps. And I was like, he might get back in the ring. Thought maybe we'd see Austin again. He stunned every McMahon 2 or 3 times each in the last 10 years, including Linda. So he can take stunners. He can punch people. He's beaten up Santino and all sorts of other heels based on what he's done in the ring. He's already wrestled a match, in terms of what he does physically. It's not like he hasn't touched anybody or done anything physical. He's been doing lots of shit physical ever since he retired. So I think a simple match against a good, safe, credible veteran is definitely something that Austin can pull off, especially for nostalgia. Yes, it's in Texas. I'm maybe in the minority on this, that I'm actually really okay with this. Yes, I know it's exhausting when WWE keeps going back to the legends and pulling out big names, but this is really WWE's forte. This is what they do, bringing back big legends. And Austin, nobody's been more over than Austin. And if he wants to come out of the ring in Texas, wrestle a match, stun somebody and pin them and celebrate with the crowd, I have no problem whatsoever with that at all. I think it'll be fun to see. It'll be cool to see, it's the one last trick they can pull out of their hat is to get Austin in the ring. I think we might get The Rock in the ring next year here in LA at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns, perhaps. Austin and Rock working back-to-back WrestleManias, that would be insanity. So my opinion is that Austin physically can do it. WWE, they've been announcing some ticket promotion sales and some buy-for-one deals for WrestleMania, so maybe, they're worried about getting this place full. Throwing some money at Austin ought to do it. I mean, like, hey, Steve, we need you to work for 6.5 minutes, and we will pay you $5 million. $1 million a minute. No problem. Where do I sign? So I think that will be fun. When you have 2 nights of WrestleMania, I'm not going to use this language that I'm also sure is all over fucking Twitter. But I'm sure you have the fans, because this is the way they're programmed to think, that are immediately going to complain about Austin taking a spot from somebody or what. This isn't Shane McMahon having a match. This is a huge deal. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin coming back in the ring. Fuck anybody else's spot. I don't care about Reginald getting a match. I'd rather have Austin get one. So if they're going to bring Austin in, I'm not really too fucking concerned, with what Otis does. Sorry. So Austin coming in, I think, would be great for WWE. It would be great for the Texas WrestleMania audience. It would give the wrestling fans, that blast of nostalgia from the most over wrestler of all time in the company. Plus, we have 2 nights with 1 million matches. Austin isn't taking away from anybody. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I know that's immediately where the fans' brains go, because they're just programmed. They're completely programmed to think this way. But it's not always the case all the time. When WWE keeps going back to The Undertaker or whatever, I get it. There have been plenty of WrestleManias that have been headlined by names of the past and very few names of the present. Totally understand that argument. I just think Austin is a little bit more different of a situation. It's been 19 years since he's been in the ring against The Rock. So this will be a little different than most Legends returns. This isn't going to be, The Undertaker coming back for the 100th fucking time or whatever. This is going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin having his entrance, coming down to the ring, wrestling a match. And like I said, based on the style Austin works, I think with a little preparation, and some proper planning, and to be able to wait to book and set this match up to where it really benefits and highlights Austin. I think it would be an honor for Kevin Owens to go out there and make Stone Cold Steve Austin look as good as possible. I would, if I'm a wrestler, I would protect the fuck out of him, and I would sell the goddamn bullshit out of that stunner when he hit me with it. And I'd be happy to take the pin, and he can pour beer on my face and stand on me celebrating with the crowd when it's over. Fine with it. It would be an honor. So I think Owens, probably knowing him, feels the same way. And this is also speculating on 2 big things here. Number 1, this shit is true, and Austin actually is going to get back in the ring. And number 2, his opponent is really going to be Kevin Owens. It might not be. Like I said, it seems like they're positioning Sami Zayn for not only a match against Johnny Knoxville, but an Intercontinental title match against Johnny Knoxville. Sorry for the spoiler. So like I said earlier, imagine that. WWE tells Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who both just re-signed with the company, here's what we got planned for you guys at WrestleMania. You're going to work against Knoxville. You're going to work against Austin. Holy shit, I'd re-sign too. I don't think this is a possibility, but maybe you guys do. Johnny Knoxville suffered a brain hemorrhage during the filming of Jackass Forever. There's been some people really pissed off. I think Fightful had posted an article about how one WWE veteran sent them a message livid about how WWE didn't allow Daniel Bryan to wrestle for all those years, but are allowing a guy with a fucking brain hemorrhage and broken ribs, wrist, and all that other shit he went through during the movie to wrestle in the ring. That's a huge liability, and they're right. But again, who's he in the ring with? Sami Zayn. They can be safe. They can protect him. And I think doing it, properly, I'm sure there's going to be releases to sign and all that. So, WWE can't be sued or whatever. Anything happens to Knoxville, but I don't think he's really the type of guy to do that because he's been injured a bunch of times and never sued anybody. So I don't know the details there, but it feels like with everything they're doing on WWE TV, it's going to be Zayn and Knoxville. I think if Austin comes back and wrestles a match, it needs to be a one-on-one situation where he can stun somebody, pin him, and celebrate with him. However, do you think a tag match is possible? I don't, because it seems like everything right now is happening on SmackDown. Do you notice that? The Brock and Roman match is going to headline WrestleMania. That's a SmackDown angle. Ronda and Charlotte headlining, probably the night one or something. That's a SmackDown angle. And Knoxville and Sammy is also a SmackDown angle. Raw needs something. Raw doesn't have anything. So if you think about that, after Elimination Chamber, if Brock is champion and it's a title for title deal with Roman, then you might get some crossover because Roman will be on Raw, Brock will be on Raw. That will help. But if Brock doesn't win the Chamber and he doesn't win the title, that means he's going to be challenging Roman, and that means Lashley will face somebody else, which means all the top angles are on SmackDown. So now on the Raw side, you have Austin and Owens. That can be some major TV segments on Raw leading up to Mania. And if Lashley hangs on to the title, you'd think that he's going to have a pretty big match against somebody too. Hopefully Rollins. I would love to see Rollins win gold again. My prediction is Seth Rollins will be champion in 2022. I just don't know when. He's just so good, isn't he? So I think all of that is worth thinking about. If Austin does come back, is he going to wrestle against Owens? If he doesn't wrestle against Owens, then who the hell does he wrestle against? I think Owens is kind of like the only guy, just because of the Texas stuff and him using the stunner and all of that. It fits. But I suppose that's not a done deal. He could work with anybody else. And I'm fine with whatever they choose to do there. So to me, that's exciting. That does bring a little bit more interest to WrestleMania. I am not disappointed about not going to WrestleMania because luckily for me, I saw Austin in his prime. I was at so many Raws, so many pay-per-views, so many live events when Austin was on top as champion, and got very up close and personal with that guy. So to the point where even during it was a house show. It was a no disqualification, a falls count anywhere match between The Rock and Austin. And I was up I was on the second row, but on the aisle. And they're battling in the entranceway. And Austin throws The Rock into the barricade, and he smashes into my elbow. And it actually hurt my elbow. I think he even fell over the barricade, and Austin was bashing him. And I remember my elbow hurt for 4 days, and I loved it. It felt great. Because whenever somebody asked me, what'd you do to your elbow? I said, The Rock did it. Rock and Austin did it. So I got to see Austin at his best, in his prime, as champion. I saw him win the WWE title twice in person at WrestleMania 15 and the night after King of the Ring in 1999. So I have gotten all I need of Austin. So I'm not too disappointed about choosing not to go to WrestleMania in favor of Double or Nothing. But it's still going to be cool to see him there, in Texas. Because it was Houston. Where did he get inducted in the Hall of Fame? WrestleMania 25, right? I think that was Houston. Is that where it was? Taker and Shawn. And he did do something in the Dallas WrestleMania in 2016, right? He was out there doing something. Was that the thing that he did with with Foley and Shawn? Wasn't he out there with those guys? I think that was the same year The Rock set the thing on fire. I might be getting my manias confused. But we've seen Austin come out, and I really did like the year he went into the Hall of Fame, and when he came out in the four-wheeler in the classic Austin 316 jersey, toasting with JR, putting his cowboy hat on. And speaking of JR, Forbidden Door talk here. JR's been featured on WWE documentaries. There has been reports that Tony Khan has said that WWE has contacted him for use of guys in documentaries and stuff like that. Tony Khan is a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. Huge. If Austin requests Jim Ross to call his match, do you think AEW will let him do it? I think they would. From AEW's standpoint, I think it would be great for them because they're one of their lead announcers, is going to go work WrestleMania and call Stone Cold's match. AEW doesn't shy away from like where JR came from, and all that shit. And Tony Khan talks about all the time about how, he's been found old message board posts of Tony Khan back when he was a mark have been dug up where he's pissed off about Triple H's push and shit like that. So he's a fan. At the end of the day, he's a fan. So you get to a point where you might be such a big star that if you request certain things, you might be able to get it. Chris Jericho was on Austin's podcast. Why can't Jim Ross come to WrestleMania and call one match? One match. Maybe Ross and Lawler. I hate Lawler. But maybe Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler call Steve Austin's match. Probably not those two. It'll probably be Michael Cole and JR. But that would be fun, wouldn't it? I think that would be awesome if that would be able to be pulled off. And it might give the fans, one last good memory of Jim Ross. He hasn't exactly been setting the world on fire in his dynamite commentary just because he's old, and he's got health problems and Jim Ross is just aging. That's all. I think he's trying his best, but I do think that, he says some things that might be dated, some of his, the way he's thinking and how things used to be. He kind of sometimes forget what era he's in and shit like that. And I usually most of the time give him a pass for that stuff. I didn't really like the fact that he said Keith Lee reminded him of Mark Henry because that's fucking stupid. There's nothing similar about those two guys at all other than the fact they're black, but the ring style couldn't be more different. So, when Jim Ross says stuff like that, yeah, you roll your eyes a little bit, but, he's still Jim Ross, and him and Stone Cold kind of go hand in hand. And I think that would be really nice, and that, Forbidden Door, it's the talk of the town these days. That kind of would be. I don't know if that would be a forbidden door because JR kind of is always going to be synonymous with WWE and, and their programming because he was the voice of that company for so long. And like I said, if you watch WWE or Peacock shows, WWE 24s or Icons docs or any of those, well-done documentary pieces WWE does on various topics, Jim Ross is featured in a lot of those. So it isn't out of the question. Keep it in your head. We'll see. Wrestling is interesting right now, and that's what's important. I'm going to knock out the rest of these super chats, and then I've got to get out of here because I still have work to do today and other stuff to do and whatnot. Let me cruise up here and make sure I don't miss anybody. Chris Miner. Oh, no, I got you earlier. I already got that one. Zane G, appreciate that $5 from the message you retracted. Thank you for another 5, my man. And you are back with 5 more right after that. Cody Rhodes' first act to put into the WWE contract. I will not be squashed by Brock Lesnar. I like it. I don't want to lose to him in 5 seconds. But if that match really happened, honestly, Cody should be squashed. Hate to say it. Brock would fucking murder him. So if that was a real fight, it would damn sure be a squash. I'll tell you that for sure. I mean, Cody can wrestle a little bit. He's got amateur background, but this is Brock Lesnar. Come on. But yeah, I hope that Cody writes it in to his contract. Spaz Phoenix, thanks for the $5. Go subscribe to Spaz's YouTube channel. Calling it now. Cody is a work, and if it's not, he's a hypocrite and WWE are dumb. Just my opinions, of course. Yeah, you can have your opinions. It is not a work. That is just not true. So at least you're not saying that's a fact. It is not a work at all, period. However, like I said earlier, can it become a work in the future? Yes, it can, but it isn't one right now. I promise you that. Oh, yeah, you're going to hear all sorts of chatter. Oh, my God. That's the funny. I might just stay away from Twitter for the next week because you're going to hear everything. You're going to hear people saying that, if they're not already, that Tony Khan is sending Cody over there as a mole. Everybody thought that about Bret Hart when he went to WCW. He's definitely going to be called a hypocrite. The people are going to just shit on him for making a decision that they will never be in a position in their own lives to make. And that's why I don't do this, because I think it's really silly, for regular ass people that would never be lucky enough or fortunate enough to have a life or career like that, judge somebody on what they're supposed to do. But that goes on in every sport. When a fucking quarterback leaves or doesn't resign with a team or gets traded, everybody's got all sorts of opinions about that. So wrestling isn't unique to being batshit insane. That's across the board in all sports, but it just is a little bit extra toxic in wrestling, and I think that Twitter is going to be a really ugly place for the next few days because they're going to take something that's exciting and potentially good and positive and turn it into nothing but hate and arguing and just shit. And because people, I think, are just miserable in their lives or something. Get out, enjoy the sun, smell the air, touch the grass. I promise this stuff won't be as important to you anymore. Mark my words. Cody versus Kevin Owens, could happen too. You know, Cody going to WWE now opens up a lot of possibilities. WWE, after his performance with Sammy, is probably going to want to put him in a bunch of fucking ladder matches, but we'll see. Whatever's going on, it's going to be interesting to watch it unfold, and it's so awesome that there's a lot of shit to talk about that I can come up here and talk for an hour and 11 minutes, you know, about 2 topics only. That's awesome. So I got to get out of here. I got shit to do today. Thank you for being here. Please do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button out the door. And if you are not a subscriber, please do. Got a busy week this week, so we're going to be here Wednesday night watching AEW Dynamite together. Watch along. That is still scheduled. And I haven't decided if it's going to be Thursday or Friday yet. I think Thursday I'll be doing Elimination Chamber predictions. So we'll come up and do that live. Probably around this time on Thursday afternoon, we'll do Chamber predictions, and then Elimination Chamber is on Saturday. I'll probably definitely be doing some tweeting about that, but I will not be watching the show or doing a review on it because I'm very, very busy. It's my girlfriend's 40th birthday, so we got a lot planned, and I won't be able to take a look at the show. So, you know, I'm hoping that there's no major craziness. I mean, I hope there's not some balls crazy upset where Goldberg beats Roman. I think the bigger news might be whatever Brock does in the Chamber, but I hope it's a good show, and I'll try to get up here and talk about it as quickly as I can. Watch along could potentially happen Sunday night, but I'm not sure on that because I might want to do a Crown Jewel review on Sunday instead. Not sure. God, so this whole weekend is up in the air, but I will be here Monday night, this coming Monday after Raw, especially if I'm not able to do a Chamber review. We'll wait until after Monday Night Raw. I'll come up here, talk about Raw, and give all of my thoughts on the Chamber, who the fuck is champion, what's going to happen at WrestleMania, all that stuff. So we'll do Watch Along Wednesday, Chamber predictions Thursday, and then Monday Night Raw review on Monday. And right now I'm planning on not to do anything Saturday or Sunday unless I can squeeze a Watch Along in on Sunday. But then after that, we're going to be doing Mania watch-alongs all throughout the month of March. So lots of stuff planned. Make sure you subscribe. You guys take care. Have a great rest of your Tuesday afternoon. Enjoy NXT tonight, and I'll catch you tomorrow night for Dynamite.